Please stay sitting where you are. We're going to pray and salute the flag, and then I'm going to turn it over to Linda Brancadora. But just stop meeting just for a minute so we can get started, please. Can somebody turn the music volume down? Okay, join me in prayer, please. Gracious Heavenly Father, we do thank you and praise you for this time together. And we just thank you for all our veterans here, Father, and our law enforcement personnel. And thank you for the duties they've served in this country, that they continue to serve and will serve, Father. And we just pray you keep them safe, that they be honored, and that they get respect that they deserve, Father. I pray the climate that is in this country against military and against law enforcement would change. I pray that you would just work in hearts, Father, to see the necessity to support these people and to further the cause of freedom around the world. And I just pray, Father, that you would make all things possible through yourself and through us. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Join me for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please sit down. I want to just direct your attention as you're sitting to Linda Brancadora back there, and she's going to acknowledge the missing soldier. Linda, you have the microphone.
This is called a table set for one. We call your attention to this small table which occupies a place of dignity and honor near the head table. It is set for one, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks. They are referred to as POWs and MIAs. We call them comrades. They are unable to be with their loved ones and families today, so we join together to pay our humble tribute to them and bear witness to their continued absence. This table set for one is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her suppressors. The tablecloth is white, symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. The single red rose in the vase signifies the blood they may have shed in sacrifice to ensure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. This rose also reminds us of the family and friends of our missing comrades who keep the faith while awaiting their return. The yellow ribbon on the vase represents the yellow ribbon worn on the lapels of the thousands who demand, with unyielding determination, a proper accounting of our comrades who are not among us today. A slice of lemon on the plate reminds of their bitter fate. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of families as they wait. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us this day. The chair is empty. They are not here. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors to the open arms of a grateful nation. Let us pray to the Supreme Commander that all of our comrades will soon be back within our ranks. Let us remember and never forget their sacrifices. May God forever watch over them and protect them and their families. Amen. Friends, and thank you all for coming. It's nice to see a good crowd, and I'm glad you're all well fed. The food is fabulous. Very good. I want to introduce to you a good friend of mine. We've known each other for several years now, and I consider her a special, talented person. She has astounded me on several occasions when she turned a piece of junk into a work of art. Her talent is incredible. I had an old Indian kind of a totem pole thing, and it was faded and corroded and just terrible looking. I approached her to see what she could do with it. Well, she certainly didn't disappoint me. The Indian turned into a beautiful statement piece. She used colors appropriate for Indian lore, and it just turned out great. As a matter of fact, she told me when it was done, she really didn't want to part with it. She wanted to keep it for herself. Did you say that? It is lovely. She has done several more pieces for me that reinforces her talent. There isn't anything she can't do. I know some of you do crafts and you're probably very good at it. I am not. When I do a craft, it looks like a 5-year-old did it. And maybe a 5-year-old could even do it better than I could, but anyway. She has done some other pieces for me, and it just reinforces her talent. Then she tells me she wrote a book. What does this lady can't do? I don't know. She has many, many talents. She's going to tell us about her book tonight. It's called The 3 Keys to Contentment. Please welcome Marcia Rowe.
Quite an introduction. I didn't expect all of that. I just appreciate being here tonight. I hope you can hear me. I'm a local girl. I was raised in Wormersville, and I live in an 1870s farmhouse, not very far from here at all. And so I certainly have a love of this land and a love of all the history that we have in this country. And as Linda said, I have my training and my work history has always been about art. I went to all-girls art college in Philadelphia, and my first career was as a graphic designer. I always say now BC, before computers came and beat that career. And then I shifted and became a muralist, and for almost 20 years, I painted murals in people's homes and in businesses and churches. So I never dreamed that I would write a book until I actually had a dream that told me to do that very thing. So the story is about these 3 keys that I'm wearing around my neck. I've always loved hardware. I have boxes of old hinges and locks, and I have a collection of doorknobs, and I just have always loved hardware. I have, I don't know, many, many hundreds of pounds of hardware in my house. And about 25 years ago, I got this idea to take these 3 antique keys. I think they're furniture keys, or they may be actually cloth keys. And I put them on a chain, and I started to wear them around my neck. And after a while, I started to feel like they were the keys to the past, the present, and the future. And that I had the keys to my own life, that I had this sort of an empowerment thing of having a sense of having my own power. And I was wearing these keys when I was at a spiritual retreat. I think in about the year, I was wearing these for maybe 10 years, and I went off to a spiritual retreat in the mountains of New York, and I was wearing these keys. And someone said to me, you know, why are you wearing those keys? And I explained the past, present, and future. And then she said to me, but what are the keys to the past, the present, and the future? And I had never thought of it that way. I didn't think of a deeper meaning. And so I walked down this path, and we were on a mountaintop, and I walked down the path, and I said a little prayer, and I said, okay, God, tell me the answer to this riddle. What is the deeper meaning of these keys? And immediately I just got this impression that the key to the past is forgiveness, and the key to the present is gratitude, and the key to the future is faith. And it just rang true to me. I just felt like that was something that I needed to hear from my own life, a real message of guidance, that I would understand how to be a happier person if I would follow these concepts. So for the next 10 years, again, this is a long story, for about another 10 years, I would work with that concept. I found if I was, well, the other thing is when I got home, I realized if there are keys, there must be locks. Because I said, I have all this collection of hardware. I knew there had to be locks if there were keys. So again, I said the little prayer and asked for guidance on this. And what I got was that if the key to the past is forgiveness, the lock that keeps us stuck in negative thinking is regret. And that the lock on the present day would be self-pity. And the lock on the future is fear. And so as I started to look at my own life, I could see that if I started to feel bad, I was feeling negative, I would check in with myself and sort of say, well, what's your thinking? Where are you going? And if I was thinking about the past and, oh, why did he do that? Why didn't I do this? Why did it happen this way? I would realize I was stuck in regret and that I had to work on forgiveness, whether it was about someone else or forgiving myself. And so I was working this program and considering these concepts. And I like I said, I had a job as a muralist, and the doctors informed me that I was going to need double knee replacement. And that meant to me that I was not going to be up on a step ladder anymore. And I was in a bit of a panic, and I was really praying hard. Okay, God, show me the new direction for my life. If I'm not going to be able to paint like this on step ladders anymore, I'm going to need a new direction. And it was a cold winter night, and I woke up from a dream with the words really clear in my mind, write about the 3 keys. And as I really woke up, I thought, that means write a book. You know, this is not a short-term solution to my money problems, but it was such a big idea. And then the second thing that came to me was, well, that means write a book, and that means manufacture the keys. I knew that if I wrote the book, I was also going to have these keys copied and have the words put on the keys. So this was a really big concept for me. Like I said, being an artist and not a writer, this was an enormous project. And but I set to doing it. It's just funny how some things really stick with you, and you know you're supposed to really do it and not leave it as an idea. So I started working on it, and honestly, a lot of fear would rise up, and I'd think, well, who am I to write a book? Who's going to read this? You know, I have no credentials. So a lot of times I would have to use that faith key and just say, keep pushing. You know, keep pushing yourself through the fears and the doubts and all these concerns about what other people were going to say. And then, of course, I did make a lot of mistakes. I was doing something completely new. And then I had to use the forgiveness key for myself to say, well, you're trying new things. Of course, you're not going to do it perfectly. You just have to forgive yourself. And then I would say the gratitude key was I also felt very alone, like I was out here trying something on my own. And then it seemed that the right people showed up that would help me along the way. So gratitude was also, very useful in the process of getting this book made. And then there came a point last year when I realized I had to set myself a deadline, or I would drift on with this forever. So I set a deadline on my birthday, May of 2015, to have a manuscript that somebody could read. And I decided to show it to someone who was an English major, who could look at the writing aspect. And then I also went and I showed it to a psychologist, because I wanted to know that the principles in the book were solid and that I wasn't saying anything that would cause anybody any harm. So once they both gave approval, then I looked for an editor, and she corrected punctuation issues and things and got it tidied up, and this spring I self-published the book. So it has been, just quite a journey from concept to basically manifesting something, manifesting the dream. And the day that the book came in the mail was very exciting, but I think equally exciting was the day that the keys showed up from California. I found a company in California that could copy the keys and put the words on, and So the keys, I like that they were made in America and they're pewter, and I just was happy, you know, to have the whole thing come together. So I just would say, you know, just give people encouragement that when you have big ideas, if you stick with it and keep chipping away at the concepts, you can actually come to a good conclusion. So what I thought I would do is just read just the opening paragraph from each of these chapters, starting with the concept of regret. So here's a possible definition of regret, the idea of that if we are constantly looking backwards with regret, we're not going to be able to have a full and happy life. Regret is an underlying sadness that blankets the ability to feel joy in the present moment. It makes the days long and the nights even longer. Constantly looking back at the errors of the past puts the focus on what is wrong instead of what is right. Regret means you're always saying you're sorry. You're sorry for what you did, you're sorry for what he did or didn't do, sorry for how life turned out in general. So the key that can open up that past is forgiveness. There is nothing that can't be forgiven, nothing at all. Although life presents pain and suffering as the consequence of error, the emotional results can be changed. Forgiveness is the celestial path to healing. Being open to the possibility of a clean slate opens the door to freedom. Guilt and shame bind us to our lower natures. Forgiveness raises the level of vibration, clearing the heaviness that keeps us tied to old patterns of being and doing. See that all things are possible. The past is not the keeper of the future. You can begin again each day with fresh insights, motives, and choices. And then into the present day, the idea that self-pity is something that keeps us stuck. Feeling that one is stuck in a situation that's not ideal can lead to self-pity. Others have reached their ideals and I have not is a sentence that causes all the trouble. For in reality, very few people reach their ideals in all areas of their life. Some may excel in business, but suffer losses at home. Others succeed in marriage, but struggle with health issues. Others long for family life and find it denied. There are always those who have more than we do, and many, many more who have much less. If we focus only on the successful few and disregard the masses, self-pity is certainly to rise. So that's our lock on the present day, but our key is gratitude. In the present moment, gratitude is the key to all that is good and uplifting. While self-pity brings heaviness, gratitude brings a lightness of being. When you see what is positive about your circumstances, even chores become blessings. You have chores because you have a full life, a job, a home, or a family. Gratitude is the sacred oil that lubricates life. Without this oil, the everyday grinding of disappointment and stress become debilitating. Gratitude loosens up the stuck places in our hearts and smooths out the wrinkles in our minds and lets our spirit fly. And then on to the future. Fear can certainly be a lot. Fear is the absence of hope. The future looks bleak when fear has a lock on one's hopes and dreams. Listening to the voice of fear stops all striving, for to strive is to hope for a better future. There is no room for creative thinking when fear rules the mind. Only dark images come forth when negative thoughts abound. The seeds of invention need fertile ground to grow and thrive. Fear pours toxins into the delicate shoots and they wither before they have a chance to bloom. But the key is faith. Faith is the rock upon which we stand, an unshakable base upon which we build our lives. While others are tossed about with life's challenges, the person of faith stands secure, leaning into the winds of change, but stabilized by the confidence that all is in order, believing in a divine wisdom that brings the best to us. Although the form known as variables are always at play, each person's free will allows constant adjustment to even the simplest plans. We often think we know what is in our future by extending today's situation, but anything can happen, good or bad, to create a totally different outcome. The future is a mystery to be welcomed, not feared. Living in faith allows today to be the stepping stone to tomorrow's contentment. So that's the concept of the book, that there's 3 locks and 3 keys. And I think I'll just close here with a quote from the poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow that I found that just sums this up perfectly. Look not mournfully into the past, it comes not back again. Wisely improve the present, it is thine. Go forth to meet the shadowy future without fear. I hope that these concepts might be helpful to you on your path to peace. Thank you.
I would like to ask our legislators to come forward now. Judy Schwank and Mark Gillen. If you guys can come up front here, please. You can join me on the podium, and I'll turn the microphone over to you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for inviting us to come out again. That was really a nice dinner and a nice way to celebrate this special annual event that you always have. I think it's kind of unique because you don't necessarily just focus on Veterans Day to make sure that we remember the sacrifices that people have made in order for us to enjoy the things that we enjoy. So I prepared a few remarks because you asked me to come, kind of my own personal thank you, and I hope you'll appreciate it. Knowing that today John Glenn passed away reminds me, I was in grade school back in those days and remember watching that on TV. And I also remember President John F. Kennedy, and I remember that quote, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country?" Those of us here tonight and those of you here tonight who have served our nation, either through military service or law enforcement, are living examples of this great and noble thought and deserve our highest gratitude. That's not just on Veterans Day, as I said, but each and every day of our lives. We can never thank you enough for your service to our great nation and to each and every American who enjoys the freedoms and liberties which define us as a people. How could we not be grateful and thankful to the men and women who pay the price of spending precious time away from their families, who endure the endless dangers of warfare, or who strive to keep us safe right here at home. Each and every man and woman who serves is an inspiration for dedication and bravery, and they command our unwavering respect, gratitude, and complete appreciation. You've given not only your time, effort, and commitment, and most importantly, some of you their very lives for the protection and preservation of the ideals and the values of this country. None of that exists without you. None of it would ever be possible, and none of it can continue without what you have done for us. You've given not only your time, effort, and commitment, but you've also given us so much more. My words of gratitude will never be enough. Nevertheless, I simply say, thank you for your years of service. The sacrifices that you've made for our country, on and off the battlefield, and in the streets of our nation, can never be truly and fully appreciated. America is blessed with the presence of our veterans and law enforcement officers. Your service makes not only our nation and our community a better place, but the world a better place. It keeps our nation a strong beacon of hope in freedom and democracy. So while it sounds awful simple, and sometimes it feels awkward, doesn't it? When you talk to a veteran and you want to say thank you for your service. but maybe the simplest words are the best words, none of which I can enjoy in the role that I play, not only as a state senator, but as a citizen, and just the life that I have, that I can enjoy. None of it would be possible without the things that you do now, that you have done, and our forefathers who have done for so many, many years. Thank you for your service.
I'd like to ask Representative Gillen to come up to the podium, please.
All right, I think I'm going to step down here with the crowd so that my daughter doesn't come on the platform. How many of you were at the 75th anniversary of Pearl Harbor dinner last night? I see Linda. Okay, folks, a number of you there. When I was up on the platform, my daughter couldn't resist the temptation to come up on the platform with me in the middle of my speaking. So, Suzanne, you going to stay right there for the time being? You good? You have your cell phone there? Okay, great. I don't know whose cell phone that is. There are going to be some long-distance calls coming up on that cell phone. Okay, girls and phones. Yeah. Go ahead and set that phone down because I don't think that's yours. Well, those of you that were at the event last night, that was a special treat, and I appreciate my good friends of the Patriots being so well represented. Captain Dan Schrader was there. As far as we know, he's the only Pearl Harbor survivor in Berks County. I was alarmed today, slightly, though I would have been glad to hear there was another Pearl Harbor survivor. I got a call. They said, do you know there's another Pearl Harbor survivor in Berks County? And then they went on. I'm getting a little more nervous about this whole thing after I announced there was only one left. And he goes, yeah, he's out in Wyoming now. I go, is he coming back? They said no. Okay. Well, I'm not sure he's in Berks County anymore. But in any event, 96 years old. You know, they call it the greatest generation. That was my parents' generation. And there are greats in every generation. But I think the difference about that period of time, Captain Dan Schroeder's time, they went through the Depression, they went into war, and war really never quite ended because we had the Korean, and then we went into the Vietnam era of conflict. But I walked into the Heritage at Green Hills this past weekend, and sitting to my right as I came to the entrance was Dee Gordon. She's in her early 90s. She's been wheelchair bound for decades. And she is sitting there as a greeter because they're having an exhibit of trains upstairs at the Heritage at Green Hills. Like many of you that put the uniform on, you've never stopped serving. And you know, we don't just look back historically and thank you for what you've done. I want to thank you for what you're doing. Because we've got folks that are part of this great organization here that put the uniform on and served historically, but continue to serve today. One of those people that was there at the Heritage of Green Hills is William Gordon. Whenever I come to the Heritage of Green Hills now, I announce, and I want to thank Bill Gordon again for saving my life. And in fact, it prompted one of my children to say, Dad, were you in World War II? I said, no. I said, your grandfather was. And I said, William Gordon was a Hellcat fighter pilot, lives right across from my office is. He was a Hellcat fighter pilot on the USS Hancock. My dad was an airman in the machine gun turret of a Grumman Avenger. One of those slow-moving, lumbering, easy targets. If you've gone to the World War II weekend, I had the good fortune a number of years ago to talk to Colonel Tibbets of Enola Gay fame before he passed away. And then after I shared with him my interest in his story, he said, and what did your dad do in World War II? I said, well, he was in the Grumman Avenger. And he goes, really? What position was he in? I go, well, he was in the machine gun turret, torpedo plane. He looks over and puts his hand on my shoulder. He goes, son, you're lucky to be here. No easy way to get out of those planes. But I'm very thankful and I feel very privileged to have met someone who served. My dad's been gone for over 30 years, served on that aircraft carrier, but I see a lot of you in him. Love of country, love of flag. I didn't spend a great deal of time with my dad when I was growing up. You know why? He worked at Western Electric. There was 5 of us kids. And when he came back from working at Western Electric, he left very early in the morning. I could just remember hearing that coffee pot go and the smell of coffee, and he took off early in the morning. Guess what he did when he came back in the evening? He got ready for his part-time job. He worked at Sears. He worked really hard, like a lot of you. You know, you built this country. You defended this country. Is there any reporters in the room before I go off here? I don't spend a lot of time watching TV, mainly because I don't have a TV. That kind of limits me. And I don't like have a lot of favorite sports teams. I don't really have that much time for it, sorry. If you're an Eagles fan, a Steelers fan, a Phillies, or whatever it happens to be. But you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I have started rooting against some teams. I've started rooting against some teams. We got some spoiled brats out there, okay, that are millionaires, that go back to mansions and disrespect the national anthem of this country and disrespect the flag of this country, and I am rooting against those teams. You know, they say that the veterans ask nothing of us. It's not quite true. Not quite true. I didn't get that from my dad. My dad never talked about his wartime experience. Several weeks before he passed away, I was driving where I drove home. I was a correctional officer. Closed the door, flipped the radio on. It was Larry King Live, years ago, 1982. And there was an old Navy admiral, I don't know who it was. Larry King was interviewing him. Guy 56 years old called. It's my dad. They started talking about kamikaze attacks. Started talking about the losses. Started talking about anti-aircraft fire that was coming up at his Grumman Avenger. I learned more in 10 minutes listening to that because he's very reserved. He knew he was coming to the end with his lung cancer. I learned more in 10 minutes than I learned in my entire life. But I'll tell you what, he lived the flag. He lived patriotism. There is a way you handle this flag. We respect this flag and we honor this flag. And I'm sorry, if this is their constitutional right to do what they want, to trash that flag, then I'm going to exercise my First Amendment right and say it's garbage the way they treat the flag in the United States of America, because people died to protect that flag. On February the 23rd, Mount Suribachi, 6 Americans propped that flag up in that stiff wind on that mountain at Iwo Jima. They love their flag. I'm going to tell you something. Yeah, we have that iconic picture in our mind of that flag. But there were 6 Americans that were holding the flag that day, and in just a few days, 3 of those Americans died on Iwo Jima for a love of flag and a love of country and a call of duty, honor, and country. I'm here tonight to honor veterans and those that put the uniform on, but I'm here tonight to honor the flag of the United States of America as well. God bless you.
Thank you, Mark. Now, just before I hand the microphone over to Rod, I would like to say that we had an honor guard that was scheduled to be here tonight, and they had to cancel last minute because they lost one of their own. Sal Raculia, who owns Pizza Como, passed away, and he was very well respected in their honor guard and one of their members. So they're just so happen to be having the same time we're having this, they're having a memorial for him there. So we're sorry there was no honor guard, but there was no chance to get someone else last minute. I'd also like to say, I'm winded from running back and forth, sorry, and eating all that food. We are going to run a bus trip, and I'll give you a little bit more details later, but some people may get inside, some people may not. If you didn't see what was on the website, Judy put together a very good flyer that explains it all. Your legislators are only going to get so many tickets, and you have to contact them. Every household will get 2. That's it. 2 per household is what we're told. So we don't even know when they're coming out. And we can't get them. We tried to get for everybody who wants to go on the bus. It can't work that way. You will all have to get your own tickets to get in the inauguration. But I'll give you more details later. And then we also had, Eldon, where are you? Okay, I don't see him. Oh, we had the kids from the Schuylkill Valley Middle School wrote a bunch of cards to veterans. And they'd like to get written back to. So Eldon, before you guys leave tonight, see him. He has a card for you that came from somebody in the Schuylkill Valley Middle School. And they'd like you to pick one up, and they'd like you to write back and thank them for giving you a card, just so they know that the word's getting out that they were trying to honor you guys with a Christmas card. So please do that. I don't know how many there are, first come, first serve, but you'll get a Christmas card from the kids, and they just like an acknowledgement back.
Yeah.
We'll
put the address on our website where they can mail it.
Okay, we'll put the address on the website where you can mail to, but you can still pick up a card on the way out. Rod, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you. Now, we did tell Rod he doesn't get Miller minutes, he gets 2.
Hello again, folks. We have one other guest tonight, but it's almost like he's one of us. We've had him here several times speaking to us. He spent a career giving financial advice to corporation heads and the like. And beyond that, he served our country. But just to show that you're never too old to change careers, this man has decided it was time to go to Harrisburg and carry our water up the hill. In fact, I'm going to count on him to drain the swamp. But his career goes way back, not only in financial world, but as a patriot of our country. He served both in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I want to introduce my dear friend for a long time and a retired Marine Colonel, Frank Ryan.
I was going to give Ron a hard time, but I wasn't sure that was a good idea. Let me come down as well. When you get to be my age, walking down the steps is not always an easy task. It's one of the great things. You know, tonight there was, unfortunately, because of the honor guard, there was a funeral, and I think we all pretty much recognize that's a higher priority, and we all sacrifice. But can I ask all the veterans to stand up, would you mind? And anyone who served as a police officer. Hey, Jim, here's your new honor guard. God bless you all for your service. Thank you very much. I can't tell you enough how important it is for us to salute you for what you've done. You've epitomized the entire concept of selfless sacrifice. Whenever you had to go into harm's way, no one asked you if you wanted to go. They didn't ask you if you were going to a safe space. Because for us, a safe space was something different, wasn't it? It was at the front end of a fire team. It was in the 50 caliber in the door gunner of a helicopter. A good friend of mine, Frank Luczynski, a tail gunner at a B-24, shot down 2 times. Just recently passed away, World War II veteran. You never asked any time if it was inconvenient. You never once asked any time what was in it for you. When you get back and we're supposed to take care of you at the VA, we put you on a waiting list. But I guess we're used to waiting, weren't we? It's kind of the military way. Hurry up and wait. And yet at the same time, we owe you more than that, but you never asked for a thing. But you know, you all put on the uniform again. How many of you voted in this recent election?